Hello friends, I am Mrs. Pushpalata R Shinde, lecturer of English from Aryan College of Arts, Commerce and Science, Camp, Pune. As per the new syllabus of HSC Board 12 Standard English, today we are going to start a poetry section. Section 2 contains the poetries, and today we are going to start one poem from that poetry section, The Inchcape Rock by Robert Sade. The It is a 2.3 poem. So today we'll discuss about the poem. So this poem is written by Robert Sade, and first we'll discuss about the life of the Robert Sade. Robert Sade born on 12th August 1774 in Bristol, that Gloucestershire in England, and died on 21st March 1843, Keswick, Cumberland. He is an English poet and writer of miscellaneous prose who is chiefly remembered for his association with Samuel Taylor Coleridge, means S.T. Coleridge, and William Wordsworth, both of whom were leaders of the early Romantic movement. We'll see about the life of the Robert Southey. Robert Southey was an English poet of the Romantic school. He was also one of the so-called Lake poets and the poet laureate for 30 years from 1813 to his death in 1843. Southey was a prolific letter writer, literacy scholar, essay writer, historian, and biographer, and his biographies include the life and the works of such personalities as John Bunyan, Wesley, William Cowper, Oliver Cromwell, and Horatio Nelson. He was also a renowned scholar of Portuguese and Spanish literature and history, and he translated a number of works from those two languages into English. He even wrote a history of Brazil, that means part of his planned history of Portugal, which he never completed, and a history of Peninsular War. Perhaps his most enduring contribution to literary history is the children's classic, The Story of the Three Bears, the original Goldilocks story, which was first published in Southey's prose collection, The Dr. Southey's, published in first collection of poems in 1794 entitled The Fall of Robespierre, in the writing partnership with St. Coleridge. The same way, Southey, Coleridge, and several others of the Romantic school discuss creating an idealistic community in America, which they call pantis- Pantisocracy. Later, their intended location was moved to Wales, but Sade was the first to reject the idea as unworkable. As a prolific writer and commentator, Sade introduced and popularized a number of words into the English language. The term autobiography, for example, was used by Sade in 1809 in the Quarterly Review when he predicted on epidemical rage for autobiography, which indeed has continued to the present day. Sade died on 21st March 1843 and is buried in the churchyard of Crossfed Church, Keswick, where he worshipped for the 40 years. There is a memorial to him inside the church with an epitaph written by his dear friend and fellow romantic poet William Wordsworth. Now we'll discuss about the Inchcape Rock. The name of the poem is the Inchcape Rock, but what is that Inchcape Rock? What is the history behind that Inchcape Rock? The Inchcape Rock is a ballad written by Robert Southey. This poem tells the story of a 14th century attempt by the abbot of Aberthrop, which Southey spells as Aberthrop, to install a warning bell on Inchcape, a notorious sandstone reef about 18 kilometers off the east coast of Scotland. It goes on to tell how the bell was removed by a pirate, who subsequently perished on the same reef while returning to Scotland in bad weather sometime later. Like many of Sade's ballads, the Inchcape Rock describes a supernatural event, but its basic theme is the moral that those who do bad things will ultimately be punished accordingly and poetic justice will be done. Sade wrote this poem between 1796 and 1798 for the Morning Post, but it was not published until 1802. The poem is also included in the third volume of Sade's The Poetical Works of Robert Sades, published in 1823. This version is prefaced by a quotation from John Stuart's remark on local scenery and manners in Scotland, which was published in 1801. The quotation begins: An old writer mentions a curious tradition that may be worth quoting before going on to rotate the tale. Sade also added a footnote to this version suggesting that his own source may have been a brief description of Scotland published in 1633, written by someone identified only as a gem. So now we'll start for the poem. There are 17 stanzas in the poem. We'll discuss every stanza one by one. Stanza 1: No stir in the air, no stir in the sea. The ship was still as she could be. Her sails from heaven received no motion, her keel was steady in the ocean. In this stanza, the poet describes how a ship was standing motionless in the absence of winds as well as sea currents. Her sails were not moving and her keel was fixed in its position. Next stanza: Without either sign or sound of their shock, the waves flowed over the Inchcape Rock. So little they rose, so little they fell, they did not move the Inchcape bell. Means, in this stanza, the poet describes how waves were falling over Inchcape Rock silently. They were moving at such a slow pace that they could not even manage to ring the bell that had been installed there to signal the presence of the reef. Next stanza, stanza number 3. The abbot of Aberthaw had placed that bell on the Inchcape Rock. On a buoy in the storm it floated and swung, and over the waves its warning rungs. In this stanza, the poet revealed that it was a monk, the abbot of Aberbrothock, who had installed the bell at Inchcape on a buoy. In a storm, this buoy would move violently, causing the bell to ring as a warning to all the sailors who are traveling through the sea. Stanza 4. When the rock was hit by the surge swell, the mariners heard the warning bell, and then they knew the perilous rock, and then they knew the perilous rock. In this stanza, the poet says that when Inchcape Rock was under water, sailors could hear the bell and know of the rock's position in the sea so as to avoid colliding with it. And for this, they hoped that God would reward the abbot. The next stanza, stanza 5. The sun in heaven was shining gay, all things were joyful on that day. The sea birds screamed as they wheeled round, and there was joyance in their sound. In this stanza, the poet describes one particular day when the sun was shining brightly and the seabirds were screaming in the joy. The atmosphere was very healthy at that time. Now we'll see what is in the next stanza, stanza 6. The buoy of the Inchcape bell was seen, the darker speck on the ocean green. Sir Ralph the rover walked his deck, and he fixed his eye on the darker speck. In this stanza, the buoy on which the Inchcape bell had been installed is visible as a dark spot amidst the green color of surrounding water. See, now the color of the water has given as a green. This speck is then noticed by Sir Ralph as he was walking on the deck of his ship. The Sir Ralph now he is one smuggler, and now he came to that typical area. Stanza 7. He felt the cheering power of spring. It made him whistle, it made him sing. His heart was mirthful to excess, but the rover's mirth was wickedness. In this stanza, Sir Ralph whistles and sings as the thought of spring cheered him up. However, his joy comes from wickedness. So he is also enjoying the atmosphere, that a healthy atmosphere, but now he is very happy, but he is happy by his wickedly thoughts. He is not enjoying that everything. Stanza 8. His eye was on the Inchcape float. Quoth me, my man, put out the boat and row me to the Inchcape Rock, and I'll plough the Aberothock. In this stanza, Sir Ralph tells his crew to sell him to Inchcape Rock so that he may cause trouble for the abbot. Now there is a different thoughts in the minds of this Sir Ralph. So what are the thoughts? We'll see. Stanza 9. The boat is lowered, the boatmen row, and to the Inchcape Rock they go. Sir Ralph bent over from the boat, and he cut the bell from the Inchcape float. In this stanza, his crew sells Sir Ralph to Inchcape Rock, and he cuts the bell from the buoy over them. So finally, he cut that Inchcape Rock. Stanza 10. Down sunk the bell with a gurgling sound, the bubbles rose and burst around. Quoth Sir Ralph, the next who comes to the rock won't be legs the abbot of Aberothock. In this stanza, the bell of Inchcape sinks in the water, causing bubbles to rise and burst on the surface. Sir Ralph predicts that the next sailor who comes to Inchcape will not ask for any blessing for the abbot, for they will have nothing to thank him for. So he just vanished, destroy that Inchcape rock, so there will be no one to bless this abbot. Stanza 11. Sir Ralph the rover sailed away. He scoured the seas for many a day, and now grown rich with the plundered store, he steers his course for Scotland's shore. In this stanza, Sir Ralph sails away from Inchcape, does his job of a pirate for quite some time, and then with his loot, he proceeds again towards Scotland. So now he has finished his work. Stanza 12. So thick a haze to expect the sky, they cannot see the sun on high. The wind had blown a gate all day, at evening it had died away. In this stanza, there is a thick haze all over the sky, and the sun has become invisible. While there had been a strong wind blowing previously, it was all but gone by the evening. On the deck of the rover taxis stand, so dark as it they see no land. Quoth Sir Ralph, it will be a lighter soon, for there is the dawn of the rising moon. So in this stanza, Sir Ralph stands on the deck but cannot see and land around him. He tells his crew that once the moon rises, there will be some light for them to see. Now he is suffering there. Next stanza, stanza number 14. Can't hear, said one, the breakers roar, for when thinks we should be near the shore. Now where we are I cannot tell, but I wish I could hear the Inchcape bell. In this stanza, one member of Sir Ralph's crew says that they must be near the shore since one can hear the waves breaking somewhere nearby. However, without the Inchcape bell, it is impossible to figure out their exact location. So now they are going to realize that they have done some wrong thing there. Stanza 15. They hear no sound, the swell is strong, though the wind hath fallen, they drift along, till the vessel strike with a shivering stroke. O Christ, it is the Inchcape Rock. In this stanza, the ship is moving slowly through the water till it suddenly strikes a large object and its entire structure is shaking. Now the ship is shaking. The crew realizes that they have hit the Inchcape Rock. Now the crew of that from that boat realize they have done some bad work there. Next stanza, stanza number 16. Sir Ralph the rover tore his hair. He crushed himself in this despair. The waves rush in on every side. The ship is sinking beneath the tide. In this stanza, Sir Ralph has lost all hopes and taken to insulting him as the ship starts to sink with the high tide. And the last stanza of this poem, that is stanza 17, but even in his dying fear, one dreadful sound could the rover hear, a sound as if with the Inchcape bell the devil below was ringing his knell. In this stanza, Sir Ralph hears the devil tolling bell that signals his death as his ship is sinking. So, here the poetic justice was the established that the bad is going to be punished and good is going to be renowned. Means the Sir Ralph has done the bad work, so at the end of the poem he was punished, so he has to catch his death. So his ship was sinking now and he is at the door of the death. So in this way we have studied this poem. I hope you like this poem very much. Thank you very much.